Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel for another tips and tricks video. In today's video, what we're going to be covering is my top 5 tips for anyone attempting a Pentagon challenge. Obviously, I'm 2 seasons deep with my own Pentagon challenge on the channel. We are currently at Central Español over in Uruguay. And I've managed to pick up some sort of interesting things that I wish I would have known at the start of the save. So I want to pass that wisdom and that knowledge on to anyone wishing to attempt their own Pentagon challenge. So without any further ado, let's get into it. On to tip number 1. So then guys, tip number 1 is understanding the rules of the division you end up in. Obviously, one of the most important things of a Pentagon series is starting unemployed with next to no badges at all. So obviously you're going to probably end up in a league that you don't necessarily know the rules for, just like I did. I ended up in Uruguay and things have been pretty difficult. What I will say though is understanding the rules is vitally important. Obviously in my first season, we were in the 2nd division of Uruguayan football. So if I just drop into that, it's pretty straightforward. You have the division, the top 2 teams get automatically promoted. Then there's a playoff for the teams in 3rd to 6th. And then obviously if you are in the relegation, that is 11th to 12th. It seems pretty straightforward, which it was. Then you get promoted into the top flight in Uruguay, for instance. And now you have a opening stage, which if you finish first, you win the playoff. Then there's an intermediate state or intermediate group stage where they split the league in half, and you play everyone, and they still the points still add up to the overall table, which is down the bottom as you can see here. And then the top team from each group play in a final, but it doesn't really mean anything. So then obviously you have the intermediate final, which is, as I said, the both winners of the group. I'll break down the tables again in a second so you can really understand it. Then you have a closing stage, which again feeds into the overall table. And then you have the playoff at the end. Winners qualify for the championship playoff or champions playoff. So if we go into the stages here, and I'm going to show you guys the opening stage. So from this rather convoluted table, you can kind of see what has happened. So Liverpool FC qualified top in the opening stage. So they go through into the final. However, you can see Penarol here, who finished 4th in the opening stage, are champions. You can also see that 9th place Villa Teresa were relegated, as were Juventud and Correo Largo. Which, you know, the bottom 2 teams being relegated is kind of understandable, but the team in 9th, very, very interesting. So from there, you go into the intermediate group stage. As you can see here, I've been with Central Español for this season. Boston River won my group and Penarol won the other group. So from there, they go into the final, which Boston River won. However, as I said, this doesn't impact pretty much anything else. So we go into the closing stage, and things are a little bit more convoluted, a little bit all over the place here. So you can see that Penarol did win the closing stage, which is great for them. However, the 2 teams that were relegated finished 9th and 10th respectively. And obviously the team in 14th also were also relegated. Obviously, it's very, very complicated with what is going on here, but I think I've finally got it nailed. And obviously you go into the playoff, is the opening stage winner, Liverpool FC, versus the closing stage winner, Penarol, and then Penarol secured the title, which is a very weird way to do it, because if we look at the closing stage, Liverpool down in 3rd, Penarol were in 4th in the opening stage. It's very all over the place. But then you've got the overall table. So this is how the whole season looks when you put all of the games together. So Penarol do come out on top, but that has nothing to do with them winning the title. They just were the best team throughout the course of the season. But you've got the teams in 11th, 12th and 16th all relegated, which makes absolutely 0 sense until you go into the overview section and then you go on to the average points table. Now, this is where, as you can see, the 3 teams here were the 3 teams relegated. So this division has nothing really to do with your points in terms of the table, where you've how many wins you've got, if you've won the intermedio stage. It has nothing to do with that. It all comes down to average points secured in your games. And as you can see, you've entered Largo and Villa have the lowest here. So there was actually a 13th versus 14th place playoff as well, because these two teams had the same average points. Let me go into the stages. I can't remember. Yeah, playoffs here. Average points 14th place, and Deportivo Maldonado won that game on penalties, relegating Villa. Very, very complicated, but it is vitally important to understand the division and the rules that are in place where you are playing your season. If you are doing any Journeyman or Pentagon challenge and you are masking attributes, then this next tip is of vital importance to you, and that is that trials are your friend. As you can see here, we are in the off season with Central Espinal, and I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 people on trial in with the club. We're going to take a look at them. We're going to see what their attributes come in as, because let's say if I go on Diego Diaz, for instance, and let's change this to attributes. As you can see, I don't necessarily have a full understanding of his entire attribute tree. Let me pop this onto position so you can kind of see things a little bit more. You can see he's a 3-star fullback, but we don't necessarily have all of the information about his attributes like you would a player of your own. As you can see here with Torres, I know everything about him. He's my player. We know everything there is to know about him. Obviously, I get loads of people in on trial. It's basically a revolving door at this club, just to try and get a little bit more information about everyone. As you can see, though, we are slowly gaining more information, but I reckon during the off season and stuff, I probably have around 200 to 250 trialists in through the door to try and make sure everything fits, make sure that we're always trying to improve the team, making sure that we are trying to be as competitive as humanly possible. We're always trying to improve. However, as I mentioned in the first tip of knowing the league rules, you obviously need to stay within your allotted rule set. For instance, in Uruguay, we are only allowed 3 foreigners in the starting 11. So as you can see here, I have Uruguayan, and then this is where it all sort of mixes up here. Juninho Roca is Brazilian. I think this guy, oh no, he is also, where are my foreigners? Ontivero? Yeah, okay, so Ontivero is Argentinian, Juninho Roca is Brazilian, so that means I can only have one more foreigner in this starting 11. I can't for the life of me remember who it is. I genuinely don't think I might not have one. I've only got 2 foreigners in this starting 11. But as you can see, guys, you need to make sure you have everything adhering to the rules. But yes, definitely get as many trials in as possible. However, that does lead me into tip number 3. So tip number 3 for me is always value stats over your coach's opinions. Obviously, if I go into my staff here, I'm getting my judgment from my assistant manager, who is this one. He's okay. Judging player ability is a 12. Judging player potential is also a 12. He's actually a very, very good coach and assistant manager for me at this level. However, he's not the best coach in the game. He's not got the best understanding of all of our players. So when he is providing me with these role ability star ratings, let me go into the squad so you can kind of see what I'm talking about a little bit more here. You can see some of these star ratings that are coming in. Obviously, some of the players that are on trial we don't necessarily know about, but let's take a look at Juninho Roca. He is probably one of my better players, playing out on that attacking left midfield. Left-footed, currently valued at a 4-star, currently a superb rating for the senior team, and he has the potential of 4.5 stars versus someone like let's take a look at someone down the bottom, Mauricio Alonso. If you look at them, let me do a comparison. Compare with Central Espinal. Where is Juninho Roca? Juninho Roca, there he is. So if we do an attributes comparison, attributes wise, They're very, very similar. However, my coaches value in Janino Roca, a 4.5-star player, and Mauricio Alonso is only a 3-star player. Now, why is that? If you look at their attributes, they're very, very similar. Obviously, coaches can see stuff that you can't. So the hidden attributes, how good they are, how consistent they are, how dirty they are, all of the stuff like that. The assistant can see that and you necessarily can't. It's kind of reflected more in their personality. But this is where I'm going to say Mauricio Alonso is a very good player for me. And I'm not being bogged down with the coach's recommendations so much. The only thing that really stands out for me is that Janino Roca can put the ball in the back of the net slightly better than Mauricio Alonso, and that's it. In terms of their mentals, they're very, very similar. Actually, in terms of mentals, I probably lean towards Alonso being the better player. Physicality, they're basically the same. It's just Roca's slightly fitter and slightly faster. Technically, they're very, very similar as well. They play in the same position, but yeah, this is where I'm saying, if you bring in this guy, Alonso, and your coaches say he's a 3-star player, but you think he's got the attributes to play where you want them to play, bring them in. Especially if they're not going to break the bank, bring them in, give them a go. Don't necessarily trust your coach's ratings because you are not going to have the best coaches in the game when you start things out. So I use the star ratings, but I very much take them with a pinch of salt. And my fourth tip for this video is constantly be changing the amount of leagues that you have loaded in your save. Obviously, when you open up a Pentagon challenge and you have no job, you have no coaching ability, you have no previous experience, you are going to try and find a job anywhere. And I must admit, I did the exact same thing. I basically loaded up the entire database everywhere, hoping that someone would give me a job. However, now I've got a job and I'm kind of doing okay, and I've kind of settled on a continent, I've managed to turn a couple of the nations and leagues off. So you can do this by going into the FM tab here and going into the add and remove leagues. So this brings up everything that I have open. As you can see though, I have a decent amount still open here. However, there's a lot that I have changed. I've taken off the 3rd division, I think, of Argentina. I've taken off a lot of the European League 2nd divisions because I think by the time I get into Europe in the Pentagon Challenge, I don't think that I'm going to want to manage in the Belgian 2nd division. However, if I were appointed to somewhere in the Belgian top flight, I'd definitely look at that job. As you can see though, I am still in South America, so I have a lot of the South American leagues on, primarily Argentina and Brazil. Obviously you can see that the Brazilian 3rd division here is still playable for me, but that is because reputation wise the Brazilian 3rd division is basically on par with the Uruguayan 1st division. So if I make a sideways move in terms of league reputation, I think that could benefit me in the long run. Obviously Brazil is a much bigger nation, much more known for producing world talent, so that's why I'm leaving my options open there. As you can see within England though, I've only got the Championship and I've only got the Premier League loaded. Same with Italy, Serie A, Eredivisie, Bundesliga, Liga 1. I've only got the top ones loaded. I'm probably going to take off, now I'm on here actually, I'm probably going to take off the Portuguese 2nd division. As you can see though, that will take it off from the 30th or the 6th, 2023. So I have a little bit of a period of time until that gets taken off. I'm also going to take off the Polish 2nd division. There's a couple in here that I would take off as well. But obviously some of the nations and some of the places that I am still trying to get jobs, I'm going to have to keep them on. So for instance, South Africa is the only nation in the base game that comes in Africa. So you have to go into Africa. So that's why I've left the Championship and the Premiership on in Africa, with a hope that we can try and get in there and win the African Champions League equivalent that way. But that is the tough way of doing a Pentagon series. But this is kind of the point, guys. You can see here, if your computer's struggling, as you can see here, my estimated game speed is pretty slow and my computer performance is pretty good. And you can see it's still kind of struggling with this stuff. Maybe what you could do is you could take off the geographies that you aren't doing. So maybe you could not have Europe to start with if you want to manage outside Europe. So obviously here I could take off Austria, Belgium, England, Italy, Holland, Germany, France, Poland, Portugal, Russia, Scotland, Turkey, Switzerland, Spain. I've still got the Spanish 2nd league. Let's take that off as well. And you can see the performance would improve countless levels, countless stars if you trust star ability. But you can kind of see how I've got my Pentagon set up. Now I'm 2 seasons in. I have been taking off some of the lower rated divisions, and probably what I will do once I move out of South America, so once I finally won the Copa Libertadores, I will probably take off the Argentinian second league, anything outside of the Brazilian top flight, and the same with Colombia, Chile, and I think I've got Peru down here as well. Peru's already at the top division, but yeah, you can kind of see where I'm going with this, guys. Make sure you have as many nations loaded as possible, as good for your computer, to keep your game ticking over nicely. But when you do move on, don't forget to turn off some and add some if you feel it is necessary. And the final tip from me is to always continue to improve. Your reputation will go up as long as you are successful. Obviously, you start with a very, very poor reputation, having had no coaching badges, no previous experience in football as part of the Pentagon. But you can see my reputation is going up. It is still minimal, but it is almost 2 stars. But it's not only reputation that you are going to want to enhance, you also want to be improving your attributes. Now, when I started this save, I had 1s and 2s all over the place, and I've only finished 2 full seasons. And you can see I've already got attacking and defending at 10. I've got mental at 10, which is nice. Tactical and technical at 9s. I don't value goalkeeping attributes or fitness, because you can hire specific coaches for that, so I don't necessarily value that. Working with youngsters, I didn't put a value on that, unfortunately. I wish I had. Obviously, some of the players that I am pulling in are on the younger side. The adaptability is key for a journeyman save or any Pentagon challenge. So that started at a 2 and it's only gone up in 2 seasons to a 3. Obviously, I'm hoping if I move around a couple of different nations, my adaptability will go up as long as I am successful. So I'm hoping that is the case there. But the determination, player knowledge, youngster knowledge all going up. Level of discipline and man management also going up, and motivating also pretty good as well. But always keep improving, guys. You can see I now have a continental C license. I've gone through the national licenses, and now I'm at the continental levels. I am currently at the C. As you can see, I'm not studying for a B license at the moment. However, I wish I could be. I did apply for it in my club vision, but it was turned down, unfortunately. If I were able to ask for it again, it'd be in the personal. It's not there, so it's not available for me to talk about yet. But always keep improving, guys. Always make sure you're striving to get those coaching badges, and you're always studying to become a better manager. So then, guys, that is it for today's video. We have covered 5 of my tips for anyone starting a Pentagon challenge. I hope you found it useful. I wish I knew some of this knowledge when I started my save. Obviously, some of it seemed relatively self-explanatory, but I'm hoping that some of it will help you and help your saves. If you have enjoyed today's video and you have found it useful, don't forget to drop a like on it and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you are notified when I upload another video. I'll be back at 5 PM UK tomorrow with another episode of my Pentagon challenge. Hopefully, I'll catch you guys there.